Well, hey, you guys, we are super excited to have you here with us today. I have Michelle here, our Chief of Staff. I'm Andy Thomas, Executive Director of Hope Rising Arizona. And we thought it would be good just to have a conversation today, just giving some updates on where we are with the ministry and also some exciting things that are coming up. And I thought we could start off with just kind of something funny.
Okay,
Does that sound good?
let's do it.
I mean,
Let's do it.
we might think it's funny, but either way.
I hope they think it's funny.
All right. So, what is one thing about yourself
Okay.
that maybe nobody else knows about you?
Yeah.
Or maybe not nobody, but a lot of people.
Okay. Well, back when I was in middle school, I don't know if you remember the fast food chain Rallies. Rallies, and maybe I'm from, Midwest,
That's
Ohio,
right.
Kentucky. But back when I was in middle school, I tried out for a Rallies commercial.
What?
And I made it.
You did?
I made it.
Oh
I
my
made it to the second round and then was out. But
Oh, no.
I actually got to be a part of the Rallies commercial.
That is awesome.
That's my claim to fame.
Okay, mine, I would have liked to see the commercial. Wow. So for me, something I think some people know this about me, but a lot of people don't. Yeah, I'm classically trained in opera, and so that's
Really?
yeah. That was my kind of undergraduate study. And I could bust out an aria right now if you wanted to. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, please.
But yeah, that's not a lot of people know about that about me.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah. So I thought we would talk a little bit today just about kind of an so that people can kind of get to know you. You're fairly new with our staff. I've known you for several years, you and your husband, Ked.
Yes.
But I'd love it if you could kind of just talk a little bit about, your history working with trafficking survivors. It's been like 19, 20 years, something like that, you and your husband. So why don't you talk a little bit about your past experience working with survivors?
Yeah, absolutely. So, our heart really broke. Goodness, I'd say it's probably been 20 some years ago that our heart actually began to break to be able to serve women. And Kat and I both, we met in Bible college and knew we had a heart for full-time ministry, but we had no greater context for trafficking survivors. So we went and served at a mission for men, actually. It was a 24/7 restorative care home for men that had been incarcerated and dealt with addiction and recovery.
Okay.
And so our heart broke for that model where it's 24/7 community, healing, meals, working together, life on life. And then when the Lord called us to Kentucky, we thought we were being called to start a men's home. And actually, I had a situation where my eyes were open to the needs of women that were being exploited and trafficked. Ted had a situation where he was seeing the needs of women that were being exploited and trafficked. And there was what do we do when women want out?
Because there was nothing like
There
that
was
at the time.
nothing.
Right.
No,
Right.
that was back in early 2000s.
Okay.
We had no grid for trafficking
I mean,
or
who did?
housing. There was
right.
nothing like that back then. And so what we realized was, we were sent to go learn a model of ministry that we would later be called back. And so we opened our very first home, a long-term restorative care home to serve women 18 and over in 2007. And then we started serving all over the country, opening homes all over the country to serve survivors.
Yeah.
And so we've been doing that now the last 20 some years.
So I've told other people this, that from what you said, just so you know, like Kat and Michelle are truly like pioneers in this field. We feel super blessed to actually have you on our team. I've joked around and said like we recruited the Michael Jordan
I don't know about that.
in the trafficking arena. No, I'm serious. Yeah, just for our team, obviously we launched our program last year. We've been a nonprofit since 2017, but the collective experience on our team went from like 4 years experience to 24 overnight when we brought you on staff. And that's huge for us, because it's being able to really build an effective program with all of your prior knowledge and experience. So we're so blessed to have you on the team.
Well, I'm loving it. I love the team. I love the mission. I love Arizona, and I love what God is doing. And I would really love to hear from you you've been serving in this movement now, and you've been serving Hope Rising over the last year. What has your last year been like? What are you seeing? What are you learning? How did the Lord really open your eyes to this?
Sure.
And what has the last year been like
Yeah.
getting this mission on mission?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, so for me, honestly, I started out as a high school choir teacher, and like you said, nobody has a frame of reference for trafficking, but at the time, I did actually have a few students, unfortunately, that were trafficked, and with some not very good outcomes. And at the time, this would have been 20 years ago now. Like you said, there were no restorative care communities, there were no facilities that were offering any type of like support for survivors. And then, fast forward to when this opportunity came about with Hope Rising. Man, I jumped at the chance because it's like, I know that that's a need, especially here in Southern Arizona. I mean, it's needed all over the country more. Right. It's almost like you can't have enough right now to provide the care that's needed all across the country. But I jumped at the chance, and we were able to kind of launch the program last year, a long-term setting. So in the last 12 months, we've served 8 survivors from all over the country. A couple here in Arizona. We graduated a couple residents, and so, but I'd be lying if I said that there weren't some real challenges too that have existed, and we've learned a ton over the last 12 months, and actually learning from you and Ked and others in the work that the landscape is really changing, with survivors and what their needs are, what they're looking for, to really find that like independence that they really, don't know is possible, but that they want, and so I think for us, after the last 12 months, we've seen some really beautiful successes, and God's done some amazing things, but the challenges have also kind of come to the surface, and we've wanted to adjust, what we're doing, because our goal is to be effective in serving, these victims, these survivors, not just kind of creating something that we think works, but we want to make sure that it really is exactly what is going to be the most helpful for them to kind of live the lives they deserve.
Yes. And with that, have you seen a need? Do you see, maybe we are needing to navigate this in this way, or do you see a shift in how you feel called to provide this housing?
Yeah, that's a great question, and yes, we have. I think the thing that you're always listening to your residents, right? And if you have more than one resident kind of saying the same thing, it's time to kind of listen up and go, maybe we need to adjust. And so one of those things has been that I would say for a majority of the residents that we've had in our program in the last year, that they're looking more for, they want to, even though they have incredible need for healing and trauma and addiction support, those things are true, but they really want to be activated. They want to kind of hit the ground running. So with our long-term model, which, didn't have a ton of focus on like vocational development, and you're really kind of looking to kind of have a safe place for them and kind of build them up. But there's something missing in kind of that long-term setting where they were saying like, when can I get a job? Like, I want to buy a car, I want to start saving money for, they have these really particular things that we realized with a long-term model, we weren't able to kind of meet that need. And so we knew that we needed to change. And I do know like that was kind of the time that I started talking with you and Ked more, and saying, what are you guys seeing? And I know that you guys talk and are connected to a lot of other sanctuaries and shelters around the country. And so what were the things that you saw that are shifting, and maybe even what Ked has kind of been doing with his ministry?
Yeah. What we started to see shifting is when survivors are more sedated, they're in a setting where it's the same thing, and they're going to class, and they're kind of just in that
almost sedentary kind
yes. That we started to see this rising up of I'm ready, this desire to move about, have mobility in their readiness. And so we have really shifted a lot of our focus towards transitional living,
Right.
where it's really truly the care, the establishment of care runs parallel with job readiness and preparation and employment and education. And it's almost like they're running simultaneously, not forsaking the care, but also
Sure.
not giving way to their desire for employment and readiness, and beginning to, it's like they're ready to spread their wings, but still in a safe context.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's really, we've been seeing a lot of pivots over the last few years
Wow.
with different restorative care homes now looking at how do you bring in more of a transitional living component. Obviously, there's the continuum of care and the way they all sit
Sure.
within that care component, but there has been a big shift towards this
Yeah.
for sure.
And I know that as we've talked and I've learned from you guys, we I can kind of take this opportunity to announce we've actually kind of shifted or bringing on kind of another
Yes.
arm to our program, in addition to
Yes.
kind of what the ranch that we actually have an amazing donor that has, about this, that's created the opportunity for us to be able to actually open a transitional living program in Tucson. I mean, right now our program is in Cochise County. It's about an hour outside of Tucson, and some of the challenges that have existed with that. But we're super excited. Our goal, as you know, because you're kind of leading the team with this
So
program, but that like June 1st is our goal to really welcome survivors into this transitional living model. So I wondered if you could kind of just take a minute and describe for people. So transitional living model, what does like a day in the life look like? And then maybe kind of what are some of those long-term goals once they've kind of graduated from that true transitional living model?
Yeah. When you think about the continuum of care and at what point do we have an opportunity to serve a survivor, there's legislation, there's, prevention, there's hotlines, there's drop-in centers,
Awareness.
there's awareness and education, absolutely. And then it starts to move into this stabilization, emergency housing, short-term housing, long-term. Then we see this piece of transitional living.
And that's like the kind of the last part of their journey, hopefully before. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so a day in the life within transitional living is really they have some stabilization and now they're ready. It's really in terms of the way the continuum moves, it's really there's still restoration, but it's predominantly readiness. And so there's still care component, there's still therapy, there's still case management, there's still groups, there's
Like
still
addiction
classes,
recovery
addiction
groups and things.
recovery,
Yeah, sure.
celebrate recovery, those kinds of things. So there's still components of care that's a part of their journey. And it's in a context where they're in community, which is so powerful. They're not ready to kind of leave all that.
Sure.
And so what's really wonderful about this model is they still have that in place, but they're also able to get jobs. They're able to move towards employment readiness, financial stability, really giving them roots and wings. It provides so much foundational components to their healing so that it mitigates these things. They're not ready just to fly, but they want to be in a setting where they can still have that communal support. But they also get a lot more independence.
Yeah. So would you say that vocational training and actually working, getting a job is a big component of transitional living? Like they're working?
Yes.
They're working. As soon as they get there, they're finding a job and they're working. And
and they're working. And what's really good is that they're still doing their program requirements, like 3 groups a week. They're still having therapy once a week, case management. So those things are still going on, but they're able to work. They're able to get jobs. They're able to save. They're able to have transportation, and they're really starting to uncover those dreams and desires that they long to have and sometimes don't even know. It's so buried. And so now they're really in the confidence that they're beginning to build. And so that those pieces are so vital. And that really is what makes up transitional living.
Yeah, and I think kind of a common stat that you and I both know, that anybody that's in this work knows, that really lends itself, it speaks to kind of the risks for survivors that don't have access to any type of transitional care. A lot of that just because they're either held in bondage, or they don't know how they could escape or find this type of care. And it's really a number that, like 80% of survivors that don't have restorative care, or maybe they've gotten out, but they don't find that right setting or residential long-term living or transitional living, that 80% end up back in the life and some of the other risks. And we could kind of go back and forth. Also, like with regard to addiction recovery, right? So many survivors are going to have that as kind of a result of the life that they've been in. So a lot of them might return to addiction. What are some other?
I think there are great threats if there's not a place for them to continue their healing and continue to move towards readiness, employment, education, jobs. I do think, relapse, the relapse prevention piece is very important in this component, as well as financial stability, housing stability, community support, community engagement, having a setting where I am being known and known, that in that place of belonging, to just jump from long-term and back into society. It's like, man, I need that component, because that's the lifeblood of their continued healing. So much is surrounded and rooted in belonging. And this particular piece of the continuum of care allows that.
One of the things that when I think of, I think for a lot of our donors and supporters and people that kind of never experience what's going on in these homes, so much of this is heavy, right? And it just feels like, there's a darkness to what they've experienced, and kind of the question of like, is there light? And I think it's important for people to know that there's joy that's happening in these homes. The women laugh. There's great relationships. They create these beautiful bonds. And like the name of our organization, hope is such a big deal for survivors, rebuilding hope, and that is happening. And I'm, honestly, if there's one thing that I'm super excited about with opening a home in Tucson, it's really that there's a lot more hope available with regard to like partners and employment opportunities and connections to churches and volunteering and honestly just all the services that they need. And it feels like in this new home in Tucson that there's so much opportunity for hope to be realized by these survivors. So I know I'm excited. I'm excited to have the superstar leading our team right now with Bray and Shauna. So what are some ways that people could get involved if they're watching and going like, hey, I want to know, like, what are the needs? How can I help?
Absolutely. You can go to hoperisingaz.com and you can learn about giving opportunities. You can learn about our volunteer opportunities, ways to pray, ways to connect, ways to get the newsletter every month and be able to stay in tune with what's going on and where we're going and how things are coming about. And, another thing I think is really important in staying connected is really your heart, Andy, of where you see this, where you see Hope Rising Arizona today, and what your heart is. I think that's another important piece in all of this too, is your vision for Tucson and what God is doing inside of you too, as you're watching all this unfold.
No, that's
these
true.
new paths that Hope Rising Arizona is taking.
Yeah, that's true. And honestly, a lot of this starts with our founder, Sarah Buchanan. Just such an amazing visionary. And she's always said, when we get the ball rolling with this program, that like her desire is to be able to serve more and more survivors. And so, part of our long-term vision for Hope Rising Arizona is not to just have kind of what we have currently, but our vision is really to expand, to provide more and more services to survivors throughout the state and the Southwest region and beyond. Honestly, like wherever God calls us and whatever He gives us the ability to do, that he lays in front of us. That's what we want to do. We want to be able to, we know that there's a huge need, and we want to be sensitive to that. And so, yeah, we have projections for, here in Tucson, Hope Rising Phoenix, maybe who knows where it goes from there. But yeah, we want to be able to to serve more and more because the need is there. Yeah, and that really is kind of my big passion, is that what we're providing now for a smaller number of survivors, we're going to be able to do for, I think, 10, 15, 20 years, hundreds of survivors, and kind of joining the movement of like what Ked is already doing, joining the movement to really have a massive impact in lives for the women that really need it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we are so glad that you want to join us and continue to join us. And so you can head to hoperisingaz.com and you can learn more about ways to give and ways to get involved and ways to volunteer. And
exactly.
Can't wait to connect more with you.
Yeah, and if you have more questions, our email addresses are all on there, so that you can kind of reach out to us with a comment or a question. We'd love to kind of get you involved. We kind of call it our community of supporters, and we need more and more of you to help join the fight with us. So thanks for being with us. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you on the team, and
thrilled to be here.
Yeah, we'll be talking to you soon. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.